Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our RA Q&A session. My name is Carly Berthume, and I'm the graduate coordinator for student staff selection at UCF. Today, I'm joined by three wonderful current RAs. I'm going to give them just a moment to introduce yourselves.
Hi, guys. My name is Lillian, and I am a third year at UCF. My major, I'm a double major in biomedical sciences and history. I currently work in Nike as the Excel LLC RA. This coming January will be I'll be starting my third year as an RA. And the little fun fact about me is I have an ESA kitty.
Thank you so much. Jack, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, y'all. My name's Jack. I'm a sophomore. I'm a kinesiology major who's quadruple minoring. I work in towers. This is my second semester as an RA. I started in May. Great time. Summer's fun. And my little fun fact is that I was the towers area council president last year.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Angia. I'm currently a senior studying psychology on the industrial organizational track, but I also have a minor in health sciences and a health administration minor and a human resources certificate. I'm currently an RA in Lake Claire, and I've been an RA for 4 semesters, so this is going to be my 5th semester, all of which have been in Lake Claire. And then a fun fact about me is I studied abroad in Barcelona in 2023.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So now I'm going to go ahead and kick us off with a quick presentation to just go over some of the basics. So again, welcome. This presentation is just going to briefly go over what to expect as an RA, but it's really mainly going to focus on giving you some time to ask some questions about the selection and interview process. Please feel free to start sending some questions into the chat or throughout the presentation, and we will make sure that we are prepared to have them answered for you. All right, so our most common question is, what does an RA do? And that is a very good question because there is a lot that they do. So we kind of break it up into 4 different tasks. So one of their main responsibilities is creating and maintaining a community environment. This can be done through supporting area council, like Jack mentioned. He was the area council president at one point, facilitating roommate agreements, and taking different initiatives around your community. There are also a variety of administrative tasks, such as filling out incident reports, health and safety checks, work orders, and really making sure that your rooms are welcome ready. You also serve on duty, and this can sound a little bit complicated, but it is super simple. Essentially, what you do is amongst your staff, you select several days and weekends throughout the year, which we will serve on call. So you will serve part of it sitting in your office, answering phone calls, catering to residents, and then another part of it will just be sitting in your room and again, answering phone calls. And finally, you implement the residential curriculum, which is through having conversations with your residents, hosting different community meetings, and really relationship building. What does the time commitment look like? So obviously all of our RAs are students, and this is absolutely a priority to us. We want to make sure that they're having a healthy balance between this position, their education, and their personal life. So this is approximately 15 to 20 hours per week, and this does vary from week to week. But typically this involves being on duty. We are staffed 24/7. You have to work different move-in and move-out periods. You have your weekly staff meetings and several one-on-ones with your supervisors. You have to attend 3 annual trainings, interacting with your residents, which should happen hopefully often. And you are able to participate in an external work, but this is up to 15 hours per week. Now, how to apply. So the application is actually open now and will be open until Sunday, October 1st at 11:59. And this is on ucf.ereslife.com. And it requires 2 references. One we do recommend is from UCF. It is not required, just simply a recommendation, but neither of them can be from a family member. This reference form does close the day after the applications are due, and this is due to the fact that they do not receive the request for recommendation until you submit your final application. So you can edit it up until the October 1st deadline, but they will not receive your reference recommendation until the day after you submit it. And this is what our application timeline looks like. So you can apply for 2 separate tracks. So you can apply to start in the spring, which does only fill limited vacancies, or start in the summer. So if you start in the spring, you'd be hired November 21st. And if you start in the summer, you'd be hired around February 14th. All right, now it is your turn to go ahead and ask some questions. I'm going to go ahead and kick us off with a very common question we get typically and pass it over to our RAs, which is, what has been your favorite experience as an RA? Lillian, if you'd like to get us started.
So one of my favorite experiences was last year, my floor decided to come together and host a movie night. My theme had been How to Train Your Dragons, and they absolutely loved How to Train Your Dragons. And we watched the first movie. One of the residents cooked. I mean, it was delicious. He went to the kitchen and cooked and brought it all out for us to eat. And it was just a really great bonding moment between me and all of my residents that joined.
Sorry. One of my favorite experiences as an RA is honestly just like connecting with my team. So in towers specifically, we have 10 RAs that like work in one tower. And we did a staff meeting one weekday. And we were all able to like bond with each other. We had a little potluck and we brought food. It was just great. I don't know. I loved it. I love my staff. They're awesome.
Yeah, I think to piggy off of what you said, Jack, I think for me it would also be staff bonding. I know last year for the RAs I was with in Lake Claire, after our very first staff meeting, we just went to Buc-ee's and we drove the hour. And like, even though we were in different cars, we all like met up. And it was still very early on to us getting to know each other, but we were all being very intentional and wanting to be a part of a community and come together.
Awesome. Thank y'all so much. Our next question is, what are the benefits to becoming an RA? I'm just going to go over some of like the logistical benefits that a lot of our students do appreciate. So of course, housing is included as a part of your compensation, which is fantastic. A lot of RAs, or I think the good majority of RAs, excluding from Northview, have their own individual space. So everyone does have their own room, but every other RA has their own space entirely. And these are fantastic. It is definitely a good perk. You also have consistent biweekly pay, which is fantastic. You also develop some super important skills that are applicable to really any career. My experience working for housing got me a job in marketing, which is crazy because you wouldn't really see that overlay, but truly you do have a lot of different skills that you develop throughout the position and through interacting with others, especially with leadership, helping others succeed, and really supporting your residents in times of need. Also, mentoring experience is super exciting. It really helps you develop as an individual, as well as having the gratification of being able to help others develop. Also, teamwork skills, which is super fun. A lot of the time, jobs can feel very individualistic, but like RRs mentioned, you do work together all of the time, and you always have that support system, which is fantastic. It's also fun, in my opinion. I don't know if any of our RAs want to expand on any fun they want to attest to the position, but I truly think it's a wonderful time. If anyone wants to add on to that, if not, we can just move on to the next question.
I think you can definitely get some more built-in friends through your coworkers for sure. Like I've definitely had a lot of late nights where we're staying up talking until like 4 a.m. in the community center because we enjoy talking to each other and getting to know each other.
And like if you enjoy theme parks and stuff, somebody on staff is gonna have an annual pass. And if you have that same annual pass, you can just go. I mean, one of the other RAs and I tomorrow, as long as they have it, are going to Universal and getting the Harry Potter Diagon Alley 10-year anniversary button, just because we really want that button.
I'm also going to add on to this because I feel like I gotta, because you guys are all going crazy. Some of the benefits I would just say is like being able to walk out of your room and like see all your residents like as they're walking past, and creating that little like sense of community and sense of like home is just so, it feels so rewarding. Personally, like I'm like, oh, like I had some impact in the environment that my floor is on. And so I just think it's a really rewarding position, like personally, like emotionally and mentally. Like I think it's just great.
Yeah, thank y'all. All right. Our next question is, how often do you serve on duty rotations a week? So this does vary. Typically, what a lot of communities do is at the beginning of the semester, y'all are going to sit down in a big old community meeting, and you are going to sit down and pick the dates that you will be on duty. So we do make sure that we are kind of catering to your needs, but of course, we do have to fill the entire semester. So typically, the way this works is we go down the line and then back up again like a draft, essentially just picking what dates you are available to work. So it is not going to be consistent, but it's not like you're going to be working 7 days a week. That is absolutely not our intention. All right. Our next question
I think
is,
to add on to that question though, you're definitely allowed to swap, like even though we are picking it very early on, like I was literally swapping shifts, like I swapped 2 shifts earlier today. So if something does pop up, you do have the flexibility to change that.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Our next question is, in the application process, there are 2 references needed, at least one from UCF. Where do you suggest we get these from? Where did you get yours? I am going to go ahead and throw out, definitely follow at RHA UCF on Instagram. They are one of the biggest sources of references that I've seen, because essentially what they are is the Residence Hall Association. So it's a really good way of interacting with your community. It's not correlated to being an RA, but it is, of course, an on-campus residential engagement position. So a lot of people do end up finding people as references from there. If that's not something you're interested in, absolutely. If you have a peer mentor, if you're engaged in LEAD, or if you're involved in any other organization on campus, asking, and even someone who's an executive board position can be super beneficial. Jack, I saw you raise your hand if you wanted to add on to that.
Yeah, so I'm going to add on to that. She kind of hit it. What I was going to mainly talk about RHA. So RHA, I would say about 30 to 40% of RAs come from. If I'm not mistaken, either Carly or Carly's boss, Erica, wrote my letter of recommendation. Wrote one of them. My RA wrote my other one. I would say try and get a letter of recommendation from your RA. But I would like to specify, us as RAs, we have 40, 50, 60 people on our floors. We're not going to write 40, 50, 60 letter of recommendations that are all going to be good. So don't ask your RA for a letter of recommendation unless you're interacting with your RA. You're interacting with your floor. You're showing up to events. You can't just get a letter of recommendation and expect it to be like great. I've already started writing my letter of recommendations, and people that are active in my floor, I've told, hey, like you're going to get a good letter of recommendation from me because you're doing a good job. You're active in your floor, and I can tell that you're going to be a good fit for this position. People that are not active and are not like engaged in the community, it would be a disservice to them to write them a bad letter of recommendation, because I can't put my name out for them because I don't know them very well. So I tell them, hey, I'm not going to write you a letter of recommendation. So I would say get involved. And wherever you are involved, whether it be in your community, in RHA, in whatever like thing that you're doing, get involved and get them to write you a letter of recommendation.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't know if anyone else wanted to talk about where they got theirs from. Yes. What's up?
So don't, like, if you can't find someone, don't freak out. I didn't have one. I went as a freshman. I didn't really know anyone really well. So I reached out to a swim coach I worked with, and I worked with HOSA Future Health Professionals on a state level. So I reached out to my state advisor and my high school advisor. Reach out to people that know you really well if you're not going to go with somebody at UCF, because they're the ones who can help tell your character better than somebody that you just knew for about like 5 to 10 minutes and you're like, hey, can you just write that letter of reference? Try to get somebody who knows you, who you're spending time with or have spent time with.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on to our next question, which is how often do you have to put on community events? I believe the standard for the majority of communities is 1 event per month. And I promise you, this will not feel like too much. The events are honestly one of the most fun parts of the job, in my opinion. You can truly host almost anything under the sun. Anything you want to see happen, you can make happen. And this is just one of the best ways to really connect with your community. If one of our RAs wants to give an example of when they hosted, I think that'd be super beneficial. But I just think they're a super fun time and they're very exciting. If I'm going to pass it off to one of y'all to answer.
I can go ahead and take this one. I did an event yesterday with 2 of my other coworkers in Lake Claire, and we did an art day event. So we had snow cones, we had mason jar making, we had little canvases so people could paint, and we had over 60 people show up, which is a lot bigger than we typically get for Lake Claire. But I think it just depends on what you think that your residents want. We've had volleyball events, we've had we've done like an October like courtyard of just everyone that was in Lake Claire, like the 5 buildings that are in like the green space in the middle of like the area. We did like a trick or treating and like wrapping people in mummies for like Halloween theme. So it really is what you want it to be. Even like last year, like November, I did a study abroad event because I studied abroad and I wanted to make sure that people who are interested in studying abroad have the information and the resources that they need. So whatever you're interested in and trying to see what you think your residents would be interested in could be a good idea to do an event for.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and move on to, Lillian, did you want to answer?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Just really quick. So I mentioned in my intro that I worked with another RA who's also an XL LLC RA. So we do a lot of events together. But one of my favorite events that we put on is like a signature event that we do at the beginning of every semester. Well, not every semester, every year. We do something called Floor Feud. We built it off of Family Feud. And it's just a competition between our 2 floors to see which floor knows the most random knowledge. We do everything from history to music to engineering questions and science questions. Just to have fun. But one thing that Nike always does, as long as I've known for a couple years now, they do like a Night of Frights festival for Halloween. And like we just have like little fun games going around. Last year we had a haunted house. And let me tell you, that haunted house was scarier than Halloween Horror Nights. That's all I have to say. I actually got scared in that house. I laughed through Halloween Horror Nights, not this house.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And our next question is actually also related to community events. It says, do the community events have to happen in the community center? Where could these events be hosted? No, they do not. Of course, it is 100% recommended that you host these events in the space of your community. So if you live in Hercules, like do something within the academic village, or like they mentioned, if you do Lake Claire, you could do the volleyball courts right next to Lake Claire because it's in the vicinity, but you're not required to have it in that space. All right. Our next question is, how does the biweekly pay work? Is it how many hours you do on duty, or is it a set amount? Is it a flat hourly rate? So the way that this works is there is one big number of how RAs are paid. From this, you subtract the cost of housing, and then that remaining number is spread out through the entirety of your term. So the benefit of this is you will receive a consistent weekly pay no matter how many hours you work throughout the week, which is super beneficial, especially for students who really rely on that consistent paycheck. So it's super helpful. And if you ever have any questions about your paycheck, you can always talk to your supervisor and they're able to help you out with that. But essentially, yes, it is a flat set amount dependent on the total number minus the cost of your housing. All right, our next question. Is there anything different about being an RA at Rosen campus? The difference is you're at Rosen. Essentially, you still have that same commitment of hosting events and serving on call and all that stuff. Of course, it is a more consolidated environment because you are just within the one space of the Rosen apartments. However, it does exactly correlate the same way. You will go through the same exact training, host the same exact events. And it is overall a very fun time. But no, it is not entirely different. All right. Our next question. If you become an RA, how is your location chosen? Is it random, chosen by supervisors, by application, or by preferences? So the way that this works is when you submit your application and once you complete your interview if offered, you will state your preferences and these will be held in consideration. But essentially the way that this works is there's one day where all of the supervisors sit down and they're like, I want this person. So it is essentially up to the supervisors to select. But we 100% do essentially consider your preferences. We think that's super important. I believe everyone on this call is from a different community. And I think they can also attest to the fact that working in every community is a very good time. So no matter where you work on campus, I promise you, you're going to have a great time. I truly know an RA from every single community and they all thoroughly enjoy it from what I know. Lillian, do you want to add on to this one?
Yes. So when I submitted my application, I actually chose to be in Northview. I put that as my top choice. But I came in as a spring RA, so I didn't really have much of a choice where I was going. My preferences were more held into how is she going to work into going into an existing floor. And coming to Nike, I have to admit, is probably the best choice that was ever made in regards to where I was going. I've made really good friends. I've just done amazing things. I've experienced so many different areas. I used to work with like upperclassmen, but now I work with freshmen mostly just freshmen. And I found that it's really, really helpful. And just getting to know my residents. And I learned that I really prefer the style where I'm at, the suite styles more than the apartment styles, just because my residents do come out a little bit more. But I think if I went to Northview, I would be happy, but probably not as happy as I am now at Nike.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Our next question is, what is the difference between an RA and a CA? I'm going to pass this off to y'all just because I know you want to answer the question.
Hi, so I was a conference assistant over the summer, and I would say the biggest difference between being an RA and a CA is as a conference assistant, you don't have consistent residents, so you don't have to do the night to nights aspect or the roommate agreements of like making sure that everyone's on the same page. People typically stay for like a week or two at a time. You might have some residents that do stay the entire summer, but you're not responsible for them in the same way that you would be as a resident assistant. More of the conference assistant tasks are making sure that like they have their bed sheets and doing more of the customer service aspects. You also have duty shifts that look a little different. So as a conference assistant, you have to do office shifts. You have to still do your overnight on calls. You still do your weekends on calls. And then you have random miscellaneous shifts, which is where you would do like linen packings and more like miscellaneous like check-ins of those residents that are coming in and going. So I'd say as a CA, you have more scheduled things to do. So this is like this, I'm doing this from X time to X time. Whereas RA, you might be doing a little bit more off the clock, but on your own terms. So like doing those bulletin boards, or there's night to night, so there's roommate agreements that may not be exactly scheduled, but it's more flexible, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you so much. We are going to go to our next question, which is, do a lot of you have outside jobs? And can you balance your work life and RA life well on top of academics? I am going to force Jack to answer this question because I know he has a good answer that I think will be super helpful.
I do have a great answer to this one. Okay, so I have 4 jobs. So let me explain. Okay, so I work as an RA. I also work at Burger U, So if anyone wants to come and get food, y'all can come in. I got y'all. I'll hook y'all up. I work 15 hours at Burger U. Let's say that. I work exactly 15 hours a week at Burger U. Yep. And then I have two what I consider educational jobs. I have a job in ROTC. Love ROTC. Y'all should all join. Tiny plug. And I'm a peer mentor for lead scholars. So that's another like little job that I have going on. Those are both educational jobs, so they do not count as like jobs, but I would definitely say I'm putting in job hours for both of them. And then Burger U definitely is a job, and then here is a job. So I have like, I'd say I work like 50, 60 hours a week between the four combined. And I would definitely say that like you can 100% you can balance your work life. One thing that like everyone freaks out about whenever you hear like, oh, 40, 50, 60 hours a week is like you don't have time to study, but you're on duty for I think our duty shift is 15.25 hours or something like that. You're sleeping for 8 of them. You're doing homework for another 7. Like you can definitely do homework and work. Your RA shift is really not that bad. I don't want any of you guys to be like, oh, your week shift is horrible. No, it's not. I literally sit here. I do homework. I'm on duty right now. I'm doing a Q&A. Like, it's I got a life too. I like go out. I lift. So like it's not a hard job. It's very relaxed, very light. You have a lot of like little tasks you got to get done and taking care of people, administrative tasks, things like that. But on top of like just actually having a job, it's very possible. Yeah.
Okay. Do any of you want to add on to that one at all, or we should move on to the next question?
I'm actually gonna double down.
Okay.
However, you do have to get very good at time management. Your time that you have needs to become very efficient, very effective. You will learn to get better at that as college goes on. You also need Google Calendar. Google Calendar is my savior, my goat, my hero. Gets me through my days, gets me through life. Yes, so use Google Calendar. I highly recommend it. Every single thing is on there. Every single thing is scheduled.
I agree. I love Google Calendar, and time management is also the best. And also being an RA is super good at growing your time management skills. Fun fact. Okay, now we're going to move on to our next question. Thank you so much, Jack. And we've received a couple questions now about the terms that you'll be getting. So I'm just going to kind of answer it based off this question. And hopefully that clarifies it. If you have any other questions on the basis of it, please feel free to ask again, and I'm more than happy to address it. But essentially, it's asking about if you want to be an RA in the fall of next year, should you not apply now, or when should you apply? So I'm just going to go and break down essentially what that will look like. So there are 2 choices on the application where you begin spring 2025 or summer 2025. The spring 2025 option, you are only going to be filling a vacancy if there is one. So this is only in the event, again, of vacancies. So that means there are very limited positions. But that's if you're interested in that. Or you can decide to start summer 2025. Those are the 2 options because the summer 2025 term serves May 2025 until May 2026 of the next year. So if you're interested in being an RA in the fall, you will start May 2025. We do have our RAs work over the summer. If that is what's causing a little bit of confusion, that is why we have it listed as summer 2025. But what is super important to note about this is a lot of our RAs apply for exemptions so that they are not required to work over the summer. These are offered on a limited and need basis. So let's say you have an internship or you have a super important vacation that you had scheduled 9 months ago. You would submit that exemption form. We review it on a case-by-case basis, and you can get excused for that summer term to start in the fall. But there is no later application to start in the fall of 2024. If you're looking to start, 2025. If you're looking to start in the fall 2025, you would select the summer 2025 option, if that makes sense. Another question I think is related to this is asking, if you start over the summer, which summer session is it? Again, this is selected based on need. We don't have all of our RAs work the entire summer. We will have some do summer C, which is that long summer, and we'll have some work summer B, where we do have a lot of people moving in. That is the majority of what a lot of them do, just because that is when we get the largest bulk of our residents. But it's not like every single RA is working the entire summer. And again, this can be selected. So if you have a job that'll be ending sometime midsummer, you can choose to only work summer B or only work the entirety of summer C, if that clarifies that question. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question, which says, do all housing options for RAs get their own rooms, or is there any that shares living spaces? So I believe Northview, you have your own room, but you will share essentially the apartment with another RA that is on the opposite side of the room. But you do just have your own space. Every single RA, no matter what, will have their own room. But we do have several spaces in which you will be sharing the space as a whole with another RA. I don't know if any of y'all have experienced that and would like to add on to that. If not, it's totally okay. But this is the case for the majority of our RAs.
I can speak on Northview because I have a couple friends over in Northview. One thing about being an RA is if you're like kind of hesitant about living alone, I've heard only amazing things from Northview RAs about living with someone. It can get a little lonely because you're living alone. If you want to live alone, cool, great, that's awesome. I like people. I like talking to people. So living alone for me is a little difficult. There was a big learning curve, and I'll admit it. It kind of sucked to start. But Northview has, it's one of you and then like another one, and you guys like share a space, but you have your own bedrooms. They love it. I've heard literally nothing bad from all 12 of them. It's awesome. It's super cool. Yeah, that's pretty much it though.
Yeah. Can I add something?
Absolutely.
So a couple, summer of 23, I ended up sharing with another RA just because we had some maintenance issues in our rooms, and I was second floor, she was first floor. So we just ended up sharing an apartment style in Hercules. And it was amazing. I didn't realize how much I missed living with someone. And it made me realize getting a cat was my best option. Because you have a roommate if you have a cat or an ESA. But like, it's just really helpful to realize just, hey, yeah, I'm living by myself. And I need to learn certain things to survive. And if you're worried, okay, I'll admit, I do not like sharing bathrooms. I am that person. I hate to share a bathroom. I don't think there is an RA, correct me if I'm wrong, but an RA room that has to share a bathroom. So if you're worried about that, you're good. Like, you're going to get your own bathroom. If that's like a holdup, you're like, oh, I want to go live off campus because everybody almost has their own bathroom. Still apply. Everybody has their own bathroom here as well. You're not sharing with residents.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Our next question is, how much does being an RA impact personal time? Other than hosting events and being on shift, am I required to stay in my dorm every night? Or, for example, could I leave for the weekends to visit home? Absolutely. If you are not on duty, you do not need to stay in your community. We do love when RAs are members of their community. So whether that's sitting in community spaces and interacting with residents around them, but the only times you are absolutely required to be in your space is if you're on call. So if you have that phone for the night, you are required to stay within your community to reply to any calls. But other than that, you are free to come and go as you please. I know a lot of RAs who are involved in club sports or involved in IM teams or just really different organizations on campus like student government and stuff like that. So of course this is a job, so it does take up some time in your day. But I will say, if anything, it is an additive to your experience instead of detracting from it, because you get to live on campus, which is fantastic, get to be directly a part of the UCF community, literally in the most physical way possible. So it does impact your personal time in the sense that you will have hours that you are working, but it does not entirely take away any space that you do have, because you will 100% have time for yourself, which is super fantastic. We actually do label these as like nights away. So this is periods of time where you can literally request to your supervisor being like, hey, I am going on vacation for this many days. Is that okay? Which is super fun. I know, was it Lillian that you wanted to add on to that at all?
Yeah. So with like the nights away thing, don't get too freaked out over it. Like, it's hard to understand in the beginning, but once you start submitting them, it kind of, you get into a flow of it. But it's essentially at 3 a.m. you need to be in your room in case something happens. I know I had an incident where we had to call all available RAs to come in and help because the incident was just so big. And this was before 3 a.m. So RAs who didn't respond, they were fine. It's essentially you get 14 nights away. And that's just, as Carly said, hey, I'm not going to be here. Is that okay? You can totally visit your family, go home for the weekend. I actually go home every weekend, but I live close enough that I can go and then come back. I know other RAs who are out of state and they have to plan that as like a vacation. So they'll plan ahead of time, and whoever your coordinator and graduate coordinator is, they'll tell you when you can start submitting your nights away so that you can go home and stuff. But I really don't have it impact my personal time too much. This is also where you learn boundaries. It took a lot for me to learn boundaries. I was like, oh yeah, I'm always available. Come knock on my door. But then I realized, okay, I need to like say, hey, I'm not available right now. I'm taking some personal time to just work on me, to study, stuff like that. And that really helped my residents kind of understand my schedule and understand that I'm also a student. They kind of forget that we are also students. They think that our only job is to be an RA. So I've had to remind them a couple times that I'm also a student. But once you're like, hey, I'm also a student, I have an exam coming up, they're like, oh, okay. If it's not an emergency, I'm fine. So just really work on your personal boundaries with them. Otherwise, it doesn't really impact anything. I'm still very open about my boundaries with them. It's more of a only knock on my door in the middle of the night if it's an emergency. They've learned that one.
Yeah. Thank you. Lillian, I don't know if you want to expand on this one a little bit because it was sort of a follow-up question what you'd mentioned, but what it says is, so in your situation, do you have to schedule the nights away every weekend when you visit home?
No. So my family only lives about an hour away. So I will leave about, depending on when I wake up, if I wake up around 8, I'll leave about 10-ish in the morning, and then I'll get back 9, 10 o'clock at night, and I don't have to put in nights away for that. If you're like, I know people who live in Miami. If they're going home, they're going to put in nights away because they're not going to want to drive back the same day that they're driving down. And I know a couple other people who do the same thing, who don't live far, but I don't put in nights away every time I go home to visit.
I'll add to this because I'm kind of the opposite case. So home for me is about 7 hours away. But I like going home. You know, I like my family. So I'm actually planning on going home this weekend. So Thursday night, I'm going to be here. And then Friday, I'm going to wake up early, drive home, saves me a night away so that I don't have to take a night away on Thursday night. Drive home Friday, and then I'm going to have a night away for Friday and Saturday, and then I'm going to drive home Sunday. So I'm going to have 2 nights away, and I'm gone for, 4 days almost. But so you just have to be selective with or 3 days. You got to be selective with what you're doing. But you have 14. You're not gonna use. Most people don't use all 14. Even over the summer when it was less busy, I used 9. So it's not that serious. If you're traveling a lot, maybe you will use them all. But yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Our next question, is there a chance of not being on main campus? For example, if I only have class on main campus, is there a chance I end up in Rosen or Northview or something? So Northview is considered part of the main campus. It is super conveniently close. Like, I don't know if you've seen Northview, but if you are standing on Northview, you are seeing the football stadium. So it is very close to main campus. If you don't have like a form of your own transportation, we do have the bus, which is super convenient. You will be there super fast. But that is considered part of the main campus, which is super convenient. For Rosen, they actually have their own separate interview day where we'll go over there and interview at Rosen and get those questions answered over there. We do not want you to be living at Rosen and driving to the main campus to do all of your classes. That is absolutely not our intention. So no, you won't be put at Rosen because that is a 40-minute drive that no one wants to make every single day. So that is absolutely not a concern. Ooh, what is that doing there? All right, and I am going to go on to our final question if we are not seeing any other questions. And I'm going to actually pass this one on to I'm going to kick it off. It is, what is your biggest advice to someone going through the RA selection process? And the one thing I always say to everyone is be yourself. There is not one specific type of person that we are looking for to be an RA. It's not like this is the perfect RA mold. UCF has anybody and everybody under the sun on our campus. So we really want to make sure that RAs are representative of everybody. So truly, when you go and sit down for that interview, really just express yourself, show yourself and your honesty and your personality. And that is really the best way for you to stand apart, rather than thinking you have to portray as one specific type of an RA. All right, if anyone else wants to answer.
I can answer. I think also just being confident in yourself and the answers that you're saying. So some of the interview questions can be difficult or rankings or things of that nature. And so some of them may not have a right answer. And so when you're answering those questions, making sure that you're giving good explanations to why you're saying what you're saying.
I'll go to. No, kind of to echo what Carly said, I would just say be you. Like I'm a very like athletic, sporty guy. Like I love sports and things like that. My coworker, my duty partner, she's the greatest. I love Anna. I'm looking at her. She's awesome. She's like vegetarian, doesn't do any sports. Like, but you know, we work together well. And we like have our residents, and both of us have amazing connections with all of our residents. So it's not like what Carly said. Don't try and like put on a persona. Don't try and be like some like uptight business person that like is trying to answer all the right. Just be you. Just be you. You know, I know a lot of RAs that are like super fun and relaxed. There are other RAs that are like super uptight, and like that's okay. We're all RAs, but at the end of it, you know. So just be you. Be cool. Hang out. Have fun. Have fun. Have fun. Final answer. Have fun.
I'll add on. Really to what Carly and Jack are saying, be authentic. It's when you go in, what you say doesn't mean like when they're doing the application process and they're looking to decide, hey, this is going to be the best fit. They're looking at how they want their community to be. You may not be the perfect fit for how they want their community to be and how your personality will fit with others in the already established RAs there. But the coordinators know kind of who you are when you're going in for the interview. They're going to be like, hey, I want this person just because I like their authenticity, who they are. I am not a sporty person. I am a nerdy. I love Formula One, Harry Potter. Like, I love video games. I am a nerd through and through. Some of my very closest RA friends, they're theater majors. They work on makeup for theaters. They're very athletic. So they're not looking for a cookie cutter. They're looking for somebody to be authentic in who they are because they want you to be authentic with your residents in the future and with your coworkers. Because you live where you work, it's really hard to keep up a mask 24/7. So if you're just authentic, it'll be best.
Awesome. Thank you so very much. I truly appreciate it. Yeah, so again, thank you everyone so much for joining. If you want to take a quick screenshot of all this information, this has everything you need, some of the benefits. That application is on that bottom right corner. And last note, if you have any further questions or any specific questions you'd like to ask, you can email Lil or me at reslifeselection@ucf.edu. I will answer any questions you may have, whether they're super specific to you or super general. We also do have several upcoming Q&A sessions. So the next one will be on September 12th in person from 5 to 6 p.m. This is going to be in the Garden Key Room in the Student Union. But again, thank you everyone so much for joining. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to see you all apply very soon.